And we'll start with a little bit of the history. Yeah, that should be this in a second. And the history comes back to 1910. So we are more than 100 years back to Germany. Why can't we see this? Yeah, probably this one. Okay. And this is the very moment, 1910, where the association of so-called natural wine producers has been established, Verband Deutscher Naturweinversteigerer. That was the initial name for the VDP, and this association, it was made up out of 4 or 5 different older associations of German producers, but they all get together to establish an association for natural wine. And natural wine in the beginning of the 20th century has nothing to do with wild yeast or the low interventionism in the vineyard and things like this. Natural wine in the beginning of the 20th century meant the wine that has not been chaptalized and the wine that the producer would not put any sugar to it after the fermentation. So neither before the fermentation nor after the fermentation, you could not add any sugar. Natural wine is the wine that is all that sugar in it. It comes from the fruits. So you can see that in the beginning of the 20th century, it was not so easy to have this sort of wine in cool Germany, much cooler than it is now. And these producers met together to produce so-called quality wines. And another reason that they met together was that in the beginning of the 20th century, the system of selling German wine was quite complicated. You could sell this wine only through the auctions. You could not just go as a distributor or importer individually to the vineyard and buy this or that barrel of wine and take it with you. It all went through the auctions. So these gentlemen, I'm sorry, there are no ladies on this picture. I can't see anyone. That was the beginning of the 20th century. What to do? These gentlemen get together to organize one big auction. The big auction for the various importers and distributors from different markets of the world. So they can come to one place to taste a lot of wines from the many producers from Moselle, from Rheingau, from Franken and other wine regions, and to buy this wine or to make some transactions at this place. So that was one of the ideas, to produce the quality wine, unsweetened wine, and also to sell it much easier. And what is really interesting, when you look at the prices of the German wines under the name that you know, if you're from London, you know it very well, that comes under the name Hock. Hock is the German white wine, especially the Riesling, the German Riesling. So if you see the wine list, this is 1896, the list of the wines from Berry Bros. And you have clarets, you have champagne, you have Burgundy, and you can see the prices for, let's say, you have some what we have here. We have Palmer, we have Lafite, we have Pichon-Longueville, and we have Burgundies from Romanée-Conti and Clos Vougeot, and they all, see the prices 150, around 80 pounds, and then you see Hocks. You see Marco Brum Cabinet 1886. So we have a nice 10-year-old Riesling, which is 200 pounds. We have Rüdesheimer Hinterhaus. It's 30-year-old, and it's 200 pounds. So one of the most looked for and one of the most expensive wines at the beginning of the last years of the 19th century were German Hocks. So that was why they tried to make this selling of the German wines as easy as possible. So that is a history before the Second World War, and after the Second World War, we have the one very special moment, and that was what Anne Crebiel, Master of Wine, was talking about 1 week ago. This German wine law of 71 that was, and we have to stop at this point to show you the idea of the plans of the VDP members and VDP Association for the second half of the 20th century, because in a way it was a plan to well put up some things that were completely messed up and broken by the German wine law of 71, which Anne called idiotic and confusing. And in fact, as many German wine producers would agree with that statement. So 1971, it's a quite way from the Second World War, but you can imagine that it took some years to try to find a way of reorganizing the wine industry in Germany. In Germany, that I mean, whole Europe and all the vineyards in Europe were partially destroyed during the Second World War. The whole industry was not in a very good state also in Germany. So this law tried to solve some general problems of the lack of wine on the German market. And what is the main idea behind that you know very well, and you know that pyramid that is on this slide, that the quality of the wine is defined in terms of the mast weight, of the potential sugar that you have in the grapes that you eat, and you produce wine out of it. I mean, so the whole idea of that law was to make the producers, German producers, to have the as ripe fruits, as mature fruits as possible. But behind that idea, or what comes out of that idea, is the idea, which probably for the French wine producer, or Italian wine producer, or Spanish wine producer, would be something completely ununderstandable, that a quality wine can be produced from all sides. Whenever you are in Germany, in one of the German regions, only you can have the proper mast weight, the proper ripe fruits, you can produce a high-end wine. So the terroir doesn't mean anything here. It's just that you have your fruits very ripe. So you can imagine that if you have this, I mean, the mast weight is something that defines the quality and the price of the final price of the wine, because you can call it Spätlese, you can call it Auslese, you can call it Bernauslese. So the price will go up with all those predicates. So why to grow Riesling? Why to grow Pinot Noir? Why to grow Sylvaner? Why not, cut them out and put some crossing, new crossing, like Kerner, like Müller-Thurgau, like Elbling, that the crossings that can, concentrate sugars much quicker and much easily. You have, so what followed this 97 idea of the mast weight as something that defines quality was the change of the Vitis vinifera for some other crossings and even hybrids, to concentrate more sugar, to concentrate more. There were no hybrids, there were crossings at that moment, but still. So this is why still today we have a lot of Müller-Thurgau in Germany. Maybe not Kerner, Elbling, they are going down, but the Müller-Thurgau is still in some regions. This is the leading white grape. Sometimes even it's more Müller-Thurgau than Riesling is another thing. Why? Because they concentrate sugar, and that was much easier for the winemakers to grow these crossings and to get this, what was demanded by the quality system of the German wine law of 1971. So that was one of the ideas behind that law, and the other one also very interesting when you see the winemaking industry from the French or Spanish point of view, that the whole system, I mean, German winemakers, they all knew before the Second World War, they all knew where the best parcels are. They knew the names. There were thousands of the names of the best crus in Rheingau or in Moselle or in Rheinhessen. Approximately, there was 30,000 or 34,000 individual vineyard sites that were well known before 71, and they all became consolidated down a little more than 3,000, 10 times less vineyards with the historical names. And of course, if you consolidate 10 vineyards around some prominent vineyard with a big name, all these 10 or 9 other vineyards neighboring of that prominent vineyard got the name from this one. So big names became somehow diluted. The big names started, or stopped to mean anything. So the identity of the individual vineyard of the German wine regions were completely lost at that moment. You got a cruise that were like the Neusteiner Gutes Domtal. There were 600 hectares. Can you imagine a 600 hectares Grand Cru? That is completely. But we can't understand now. But that was the idea to get those names, to use those names, because they can help to sell some wines. But these, the individual characteristic of terroir of the best German vineyards were completely lost at that moment. So what then follows is that we have much less premium dry wines in Germany after 71, because I mean, if the potential sugar is so important, that also these wines become a little more sweet. If you do Spätlese, you leave some sugar, you don't want it to be too alcoholic. So it all went up, and the premium dry wines are slowly disappearing from the market. Then there is a big need for the volume, not for the quality, which is somehow understandable. It was not only in Germany after the Second World War, even 70s, 80s, but this German wine law, I mean, it promoted this way of the production. Some traditional names or traditional terms like Kabinett, like Spätlese, like Auslese, they lost the original meaning, because now you can have in Germany still today, you can have a cabinet wine which is completely dry, and you can have a cabinet wine from the Vdp producers, for instance, that is significantly, let's say, off dry or even medium sweet. So what's the idea? Why to use the name for so big, specter of the different wines? Cabinet has a meaning of a wine of a typical off dry wine before the wine law of 71, and after that you can have many different wine profiles under this name. So this is what happened after the 71, the loss of the identity of the best vineyards in Germany, and this idea of the higher potential sugar making a better wine. So the need for a new classification started to be an idea that grouped the people in VDP, and it already started in 60s and 70s, but from 84 there was the organized effort of the VDP members to develop a sort of internal private system of the vineyard classification, right? To try to restore those big names of the finest crus of German winemaking regions to go back to the outstanding German dry wines, to bring them back to the market, and also to correlate those predicate names like Kabinett, Spätlese, or Auslese and other with the tasting profiles that they used to be linked, they used to be correlated. So it took the Vdp members many years, because it's not an easy thing to convince the winemakers from very different wine regions, the cooler and warmer, to agree on the same qualification system. So it took many years, and the first step, which we all know and which is still in operation today, was taken in 2001 when the PG system was introduced. So we got the Grosses Gewächs, which is nothing else than the first growth of German wines. So the introduction of Grosses Gewächs was the first moment that the best plots of the German vineyards were separated. The names were given again, and you could see these names on the labels, and you could see especially those PG letters on the bottles and on the labels. And it's still in use today. It's now a part of the bigger system, which again was introduced in 2012, so just 7-8 years ago. The so-called Vdp Pyramid, 3-stage classification model, which took a lot of effort and a lot of discussion, and finally in 2012 it was introduced in 2013, but for the vintage 2012, so we say it's 2012, was the first vintage that could be labeled with all those controlled names or appellations, as we could see, because if we look at the Grosses Gewächs system, if we want to compare it to something, it's more like in Alsace today, that you have the generic appellation, but you have some 51 Grand Crus, and you know the best plots, and you know that these wines have to cost a little more, but they are much better than others. So the Grosses Gewächs was a little like this, and the 3-stage classification model, the pyramid, is much more in Burgundy style. So we have 4 different tiers, 4 different levels of this. That's like in here. We have the Gutswein, Vdp Gutswein, which is the generic, which is the more or less something like in Burgundy. You have the AOC Bourgogne, right? Bourgogne Pinot Noir, Bourgogne Chardonnay. Then you go up to the Ortswein level, which is a sort of village wine with the name of the village, with some characteristic of the soils, of the terroirs. And then you have the Erste Lage and Grosse Lage, which is the Premier Cru and the Grand Cru, so the best vineyards of the village. So you can it's very easy when you compare it to Burgundy. It's more or less the same system. Of course, there are exceptions, and still there are some wine regions in Germany that would not have all 4 stages or 4 levels of this appellation. Ahr, Moselle, and Rheinhessen, they do not have Erste Lage, just Gutswein, Ortswein, and Grosse Lage. But it's a question again of the local traditions and local maps and local discussions. So it's you can't find a unique one way for the all wine regions in Germany. So let us take an example to see how it works. We have Pfalz. This is the whole wine region, the warmest wine region in Germany now, and we have a Gutswein, so the grapes can be picked from all the region. You can just bring them and make a Gutswein. So this is the entry-level Vdp wine. Then you have the Ortswein, which makes you have to pick the grapes in a certain village. In this case, we have the Gimmeldingen. And then we have the wine from the Weingarten, and we have the I can see the name now because I have my own picture. Okay. Now we have the Idik, the grosse Lage, the best parcel in the whole village. So going we'll just go up these four steps very quickly. I told you the goods wine is just the entry level wines, but the thing is that you have to pick the grapes from the estate vineyards. It's not just you can buy the grapes anywhere from anyone. You just have to have your own grapes for this wine. And there is also a maximum yield, which is 75 hectoliters per hectare. Generally in Germany, the yields are around 90 for this sort of wine, 90 to 110 hectoliters per hectare. So it's quite stringent here. You have to do a little lower harvest than usually. Then we go to the Ortswein, which is already more expensive wine, and the grapes are picked from the village best vineyards. And what is new here, we have to have grapes that are typical to the region. So at this point, we just have, generally we have Riesling, we have Pinots, we have Sylvaner in Franken, but it's not very easy to make some other grape variety at this level. With goods wine you can do anything, but with Ortswein, there's already some typicality of the region. Then, very important thing, if you produce a dry wine, they always at the level of Qualitätswein. You don't go to predicate. If the wine has to be dry, the Vdp produces dry wines at the level of Qualitätswein. It can be even a GG wine, one of the most expensive wines, but it's still just Qualitätswein. If you go into predicates, Spätlese, Kabinett, Spätlese, Auslese, the predicates are reserved only for the wines with some residual sugar. So you go into the half sweet, so semi-sweet or sweet wines. This is the idea to come back to the original meaning of Kabinett and Spätlese. Originally, these were wines with some sugar, and Vdp wants to keep it like it was before the Second World War. So the dry wines are always Qualitäts, and they do not go. You can't have a dry Kabinett in the Vdp classification. You can't have a dry Spätlese, which is quite often you can find at least harmonisch dry Spätlese or Kabinett, but not the Vdp wines. The Vdp wines, they are Kabinett. You can feel a little touch of sugar in that way already, and the Spätlese, it's at least 19 grams per liter. So they are semi-dry wines. Maximum yield is the same as for the goods wine, but there is, you see, there is another rule that these wines, the Ortswein, cannot be sold before the 1st of March because of the next year after the harvest. So they have to be bottled and kept for a little time to mature a little. They're mostly Riesling, so it's quite understandable. They need a little time in a bottle to present the beauty. So the 1st of March is the moment that they can be sold. Then we have the Erste Lage or Premier Cru. The best vineyards of the one of the best vineyards of the village. Also the traditional grape varieties, nothing strange here. Also here the predicates are a little sweeter and the dry wines are Qualitäts wine only, but maximum yield here is only 60 hectoliters per hectare, so it's much more work here to have better fruit, and the wines has to be tasted before certification. So there is a commission that makes a tasting and decides if the wine is, with the quality of wine is enough to call this name, to call this wine Erste Lage. and then they cannot be sold before the last weekend of April or the first weekend of May, when the Wijnbörse takes place. The Wijnbörse is the annual premiere of the Erste Lage and Grosse Lage wines, and all others. I mean, also Ortswein and Gutswein. Nearly all the wine producers from VDP, they come to Mainz to show the new vintage. So not before this happens, not before the Wijnbörse, these wines, the Erste Lage wines, may not be sold. And then we have the Grosse Lage, the wines from the grapes of the best vineyards in Germany. And you see all dry wines here are named GGs, Grosses Gewächs. So this is, I mean, the system of GGs is a part now of this bigger system of the VDP pyramid. And all these wines, they have both those names, GGs, Grosses Gewächs, and Grosse Lage. It can be a little misleading. The name is quite close, Grosse Lage, Grosses Gewächs. They go together. I mean, the Grosse Lage of the VDP is the Grosses Gewächs. Then the maximum yield is 50 hectoliters per hectare, so very low, half of the normal standard yield. The wines, of course, have to be also tasted organoleptically before the certification, and the wines cannot be sold before 1st September. 1st September, again, is the moment that the Grosse Lage wines are presented to the group of the more or less 200 wine journalists in Wiesbaden. They all get there to taste the wines, to give their scores, to publish the results, and just after that, the wines can be sold. Red wines, so the Pinot Noir, the Spätburgunders, with VDP Grosse Lage name, they cannot be. They even have to wait 1 year more, so they can be sold after the 1st September, but of the next year. So 1 day more in the bottle, they wait for to be sold on the market. So this all means half a year. It's a quite a good time for Rieslings, and 1 year and a half for Spätburgunder to mature in the bottle and to get the characteristic that is needed. And in my opinion, it's sometimes these wines are still too young to be tasted, to be drunk. I mean, the Rieslings from VDP, especially Grosse Lage and Erste Lage, they are beautiful after 3 or 4 years. They already then start to be, but normally you can't find them on the market. They are already, you know, the shops are run out of those bottles. So just in some restaurants you can find all the bottles of the VDP Riesling. We drink them too early. We drink them too fast. But this is the market. What to do? Just a few words to conclude. How one can become a VDP member. I told you now it's around 200. It's more or less. It's 197 or 98 wine producers that are already in this association. You have to be invited to the association. Then then there is a sort of control or audit to check if you fulfill the requirements, which is generally to have your own vineyards and your own estate with highly qualified personnel. It's all checked for some months or even years. And then you have the sustainable wine growing, traditional varieties, and limited yields for some years. And after that time, it takes some years to be accepted as a member of the VDP. And then after each 5 years, the wineries are again assessed by the VDP inspectors to if they stay in the organization or if they just and it's always like this, that some new members are coming and some winemakers resign from being the part of the VDP. So the number is for many years now, it's more or less the same. And some facts and figures about this. The VDP producers, they pick not more than 3% of total annual German crop. And it's from the 5% of the total German vineyard area. But turnover of the VDP producers is close to 8% now. So these wines are naturally more expensive than others. And the average acreage of the VDP producer is 25, 20, 26 hectares. So rather small producers. One of the biggest, the Julius Vital is around 100, but it's just a few bigger producers in the VDP. Generally, there's a family-run small wineries with a long history, as I told you, sometimes starting in the 13th century, 14th century, still in operation. And one thing that I want to show you, it's one second. It's a VDP website that you can find something really interesting, and it's a new thing. They just did it, I think, this year. This is the VDP website, and if you go to it and find what is called Weinberg Online, Weinberg Online. This is something I wish that the French Wine Association or Italian Wine Association has this sort of tool that you can find the map of all the vineyards in Germany. We can take, let's say, Rheingau, and you can go to the vineyards, see exactly which vineyard is what, if it's Grosse Lage or it's Erste Lage, what's the name, and then it's not even that. You can have this one of the favorite of mine, the Berg Schlossberg, and you just click it, and you can see the pictures, and you can have the story of that vineyard, and you can even have some data on the of the soil, the Taunusquarzit and other things, and even the temperatures and everything. So each vineyard, each of the vineyards of the VDP is now described, and it's very easy to find. You don't need a big. Also, they produce a big book with all that, but you can have everything here. You just go and find. Also, you can look for the vineyard. So a very nice, very attractive tool. You can just make a tour of the best German vineyards without leaving your home, which is quite popular now, and just explore what is to be explored in this beautiful country at the Rhine River. Okay, so the time for the questions now. We have some.
Yeah, I will. Michal, should we stop sharing so we can see?
Oh yeah, you can see me. Yeah, why not? For a change.
Right. There are. I've received two here, but I think there are a few more. But I think the first question I've got is, well, based on what Anne Craybill MW said last week, German wine, in her word, is idiotic. Okay, so then, in your opinion, do you think German wine law, is already very complicated? Do you think that having a VDP classification, is that going to add, making the matter even more complicated for consumers?
This is a problem, of course, that every new qualification, every new system, every new hierarchy makes it even more complicated. And German, as you said, German labels are one of the most complicated already, especially because of the names in German, which are very long and hard to pronounce for many people. But this wine law from 71, we have to look at this wine law not from our perspective, Now, after some half a century, 50 years, it seems very complicated, idiotic, and doesn't really make any sense for now. But it probably made some sense at that moment in 70s. Germany at that time was much cooler. That was not a country like this. Now we have in Pfalz, if you go to Pfalz, you can see it's a very warm, it's a very warm part of the wine world. It wasn't so in 70s. Germany were quite cool, and they needed a way and the producers needed some clue how to do better wine. So for that moment, it was something probably that was needed and expected. But for now, it's archaic. It's now something that should be changed. And you know, it's not very easy to change the wine law for the whole country. It takes years. It takes decades. So the VDP is just showing the way. Why don't we do this like we do? And you know, I showed you the four levels of the VDP system. But if you were looking at the names, only Estee Lauder and the Grosse Lager that has the copyright. The Gutswein and Ortswein are not copyrighted. Everyone can use it. And there are many wine producers now in Germany using that Gutswein and Ortswein names on their labels. They're not the members of the VDP, but they find it attractive, and they find it somehow reasonable to use this distinction between Gutswein and Ortswein to show that there are better places to pick the grapes, and there are this system is just like everywhere. It's a first step, or first two steps after the Grosses Gewächs, made towards a new German wine law, probably, that at some historical moment has to be established and the other thing is that now in the VDP is now consulting the same change in the wine industry in Austria, which is very interesting. In the northern part of Austria, the lower Austria, Niederösterreich, they are now in a phase of introducing a sort of Burgundian, again, appellation system with Erste Lage and Ortswein, and the names are a little different. That's the Ried, the Erste Ried, but it's more or less the copy of what VDP did some 7-8 years ago in Germany. So for some reason, Austrians found it attractive also for them, and they try to copy it in the part of Austria now, not the whole country. So again, a private system that after some years can, you know, start to be something more general and something more like the universal wine law for the whole Germany. Let's hope it will be like this in some years.
Okay, thank you. And then another question is from, we received earlier. So in Germany, there has another classification in the Mosel, for example, called Bergkastel ring.
Bergkastel ring, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so which has a longer history. So how will you define the VDP classification with all this classification, which has more or longer, history?
So we make it even more complicated. Yeah, but the Bergkastel ring is a very old. I don't know if it's older than the VDP itself, because it's 19th century. It's 1890 something when this group of producers from Bergkastel, the center of the Moselle, were made, and it's around probably 40 or 50 producers now grouped in the Bergkastel ring. It still exists. It doesn't have, though, a special pyramid or special classification system, except for they have their own Grosses Gewächs. They have something which is called Grosses Gewächs Bergkasteler Ring, and these are not the same grosses Gewächs as the VDPs. So it doesn't. I don't think they cooperate. They are separate now. They are separate, but this is just one of the, it's a very nice example, but this is just one of the examples of the very traditional old society of the producers that is now just, you know, goes along with the VDP. But there are many others that were somehow, you know, included into the VDP system at some historical point. Let's take the very famous association of the Rheingau winemakers, which with the name Carta Rheingau. These are the producers of the best Rieslings and very typical Rieslings. I mean, they take care of the special sugar level and things like this, and also maturing the wine, because the Carta Riesling has to be, I think, for 18 months in a bottle before it's sold. So at some moment, I don't remember when, it's some years ago, Carta became a part of the VDP. I mean, the people in Carta are now a sort of VDP division in Rheingau. So they just, you know, work together, and because the goal is the same. They just want to produce the best Rieslings of the Rheingau, the most traditional Rieslings of the Rheingau. They want to do, you know, to find some solutions for some mistakes made by the German winery 71. So they in one group. They in one team. And many other wine producers, local wine producers, because the Bernkasteler or Carta, they are just local associations, okay? And VDP is the associations for the whole Germany. So it's quite natural that the bigger association in some way has to either, you know, include the smaller ones, or just, you know, live in some sort of mutual agreement with those other association, and this is how it works today.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to work back from the questions that people just sent over. So we've got one from Yutaka. So VDP is driving force to make German wine popular again in the world. How do you promote German wine position over other old world wines? Should be great chance, because dry wine is the trend.
Yeah, this is the trend we observe in whole Europe now, and especially you can observe that in Scandinavia. Now the need for the German wines in Scandinavia, it's a big thing. I mean, it's other big thing is that they need more and more organic wines, and VDP are also sort of leaders in organic or even biodynamic wines in Germany. And the percentage of the organic wineries in VDP is much higher than, you know, in other part of the wine industry. So this demand is very clear now. And so it makes it very easy to promote VDP wines. I mean, it's for me, it's a beautiful job, because whenever I go with VDP wines, there's a lot of people who want to taste these wines, and even they don't know much about the VDP itself, which is maybe not the most important thing. The wines are important. But they know Riesling, they know the name Riesling, they know maybe not the Spätburgunder so far. The Spätburgunder is a little behind, which is a pity, because now the Spätburgunders of Rheingau, the Spätburgunders of Pfalz or Ahr, they are very close to the Burgundian style of the Spätburgunders, and they're still a little cheaper. Maybe not too long that will last, but still they are a little cheaper, and you can find a beautiful examples of the Pinot Noir from Germany now. But still the Riesling is a king, and this is what people need, and people are eager to taste good German Rieslings whenever I go with this wines. And I mostly go to the Central Europe, like the Prague or Vilnius or Vienna. and there's always really a big enthusiasm about the VDP wines.
Thank you. There's one question from Vicky. So she said she understands that noble rot does not occur as Spätburgunder, but is there a possibility that Spätlese and Auslese are being considered for red wines?
Well, there are. I saw things like the Cabinet Spätburgunder in some parts of Germany. You know, it's possible, but it's not a part of tradition, and it's not a part of the general winemaking idea in Germany. Although, if you go to the countries like Czech Republic, for instance, when they get the sort of the same idea of the 71, the predicates. They have also the Spätlese wines, which is a little different name, but it's a late harvest. Generally, it's a late harvest wines. And you know, there's a lot now of the red wines with the name late harvest on the labels in Czech Republic. I mean, they use it. In Germany, they do not use it, but in Czech Republic, they use it. Maybe not Auslese and so on. So without the noble rot, but just with this late harvest idea. But you know, now in Germany, there are regions, and I'm not sure if it's general, but certainly in Baden, certainly in Pfalz. I mean, when the winemakers, when they pick the grapes now for just the Qualitätswein, not the Prädikatswein, just for Qualitätswein, the grapes picked just at the moment they should be picked, they're already at the Spätlese level in terms of sugar. I mean, you can't do, you just pick Spätlese, late, you pick late harvest grapes without picking them late. I mean, it's a crazy idea, but this 71, I mean, it was some 76 Exler. That was the minimum for the Spätlese. Now it's quite normal because it's so hot, it's so warm. We just pick Spätlese and anywhere. It's not far than to Auslese and other, but not in red varieties. There's no tradition in Germany. There is a tradition of some red wines with a residual sugar for the, let's say, the average customer, but not the noble rot, and I wouldn't think that the Pinot Noir would ever go with noble rot well.
Okay, two questions, so shouldn't be a long one. So there's one from Nancy. So how did the logo of VDP get designed? What were the thoughts behind it? So,
you see, I had a slide of that with a Prussian eagle, but I just throw it away. I thought it'd be too much for this moment, so I won't find it now. But yeah, this is the old traditional eagle of the Prussian Empire. That was for us Polish. It's a little scary because we saw that. I mean, the military symbol of the Prussian Empire for many centuries, but just the eagle with some grape vines down there. So it was redesigned, I think, twice during the history of the VDP, and I think it was looking left for the beginning. Now it's looking right, or vice versa. But this is the old symbol of the Prussia. So historical symbol of the Prussia with little touch of the winemaking industry to it. And those you saw that on the slide, those capsules, which are something you can recognize the VDP wines with those capsules in the shop, which is a very good thing. Just look at the capsule with its name, Grosse Lager, Erste Lager, and others. So that helps, and that makes it much more easier to pick these wines in shops.
Okay, so thank you very much. So one last question, I think, from Sue and
Yeah.
Anna. It's I know you are based in Poland, but in terms of like a Germany, winery visit, do you know, as far as you know, are they all open for seller visit already? And especially for VDP members, can people just make an appointment through them directly, or?
You can start making appointments. I think they are just starting this summer to accept some guests, and of course this year's Weinbörse did not take place at the beginning of May. That was in the middle of the pandemic. But this September, the 1st September, or the premiere of the Grosse Lager wines at the last days of August, it's still on. I mean, it will take place most probably in Wiesbaden. So I think it's a good time now to make some appointments and to go to the vineyards of the Germany, which are one of the most beautiful vineyards in Europe, and not everyone knows that. But if you go to Moselle and you see those steep slopes with vineyards on 70 degrees, and there's a river, curving for some many kilometers with some meanders, and that's beautiful. That's one of the most beautiful places in the wine world. So if you have a chance to be in Germany, just go and see the vineyards of Moselle, of Rheingau. Also, the Franken vineyards are beautiful. Most of the wine regions in Germany are really nice, beautiful, and the wines are superb.
Definitely highly recommended. Been a few times, really, really good.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the questions we have. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and especially thank you so much, Michal. It's really, really clear, explained, and covered a lot of details. The whole session has been recorded, so it will be sent to everyone who registered. And I will take this offline. So maybe some people are asking about whether or not the PowerPoint can be shared. But then if it's possible, then I will definitely send it over, but we'll take this offline.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
So,
thank you so much. That was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. All right. So have a nice afternoon, everyone, or nice evening wherever you are. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.